Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case, deep map analysis reflecting on another fight that supposedly happened at the party and newer information in recent time which has come about. Not seen or heard of it beforehand, so you could ask yourself, why now all of a sudden? Does it have anything to do with the wall of silence when it comes to the official info on the case? And how would that counter subpoena? And how the victim's family don't have or haven't had access to all the investigative material. So whatever's going on in the background, what's being restricted, other stories are somehow seeping out. Well, join me today for the map analysis as we look at another new named individual which has come about recently, and I believe a nephew to Justin Roy. The theme of today is more so about fights, physicality, and how it can link in different ways from the different motives, what people have given or claimed to have been the case. And how physical was it? Was it more verbal? Was it actual close-made contact? How does it compare, contrast to Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton? And this is in regard to Saturday night, and possibly crossing over into the next morning, depending on how you've heard the stories. And before people do get defensive, just the minority, those that have said, Warlight Ref, you focus in on an accidental death or falling out of a vehicle, you've neglected, you've walked away from the murder aspect, you're not acknowledging it enough, the foul play area. Well, that would be very impetuous for people to state it that way, because over time I have looked at it in multiple ways. And one thing that's remained a constant, an absolute constant, is the referral back to the ranges of fights, different forms of physicalities, confrontations, trying to understand and analyze the environment, the atmosphere. The whole point of why I look at fights taking place at the party is to assess and understand the stability of that said environment which Noah is in. Do you want to associate yourself or be around possible violent individuals? Do you want to be in such an environment where it could be somewhat toxic or tense or maybe fueled by alcohol? What can you get from that? Are you worse off being in an environment like that or not? There's some of the common themes and possibilities of how it can shape the potential outcome for Noah. You, for example, if you're in an area and around people, whether you know them or not, and you add factors and elements in such as alcohol, rage, frustration, jealousy, crowded, cramped, tense moments, disagreements, drama, all that can boil down to a recipe for disaster. And if Noah is caught up within it all, or caught within the crossfire, it could link on to his death. Not with absolute certainty, but as a possibility. And I'm wording it like that because some humans in the background have ultimately failed to understand that. All some people do with their tunnel vision behavior is only focus on the coverage which I've done, which they don't agree with. They won't acknowledge what I've covered, which may fall in line more with what they're getting at. A good example of two-faced double standards and hypocrisy would be what we analyse today, the theme of fighting and physicality, which Noah could have been on the receiving end of. With who we're looking at today, a specific individual, you might see some resistance, you might see some excuses being made, trying to be lenient towards one person doing a certain action compared to others doing similar actions. As said, this is information, details which has supposedly come out in recent time. I'm here to react, give my thoughts on the matter, and just analyse it as much as I can. So welcome if you are currently here during the live premiere. This is a live premiere, not a live stream, just because of what we're doing today. It's more hands-on and map analysis with really focusing in on Saturday more so. Just know as a heads up, there might be a follow-up video where we take a look at some other events which occurred at the same time or close to the party, involving similar people and maybe the same vehicle. But we just need to focus in on one thing at a time. So for those that are watching live, share your thoughts, opinions, live reactions in the chat box right side of the screen at any point at time. Whether you agree, disagree, you have your own thoughts, theories, counterpoints, questions or answers, and those watching on catch up, you're welcome to leave a comment down below under the video. It does help with spreading awareness, starting new discussions, keeping the case alive, and possibly generating new video ideas. So it's worthwhile. If you want to catch up on my recent coverage, whether that be other cases like Kenny Beach, all the strange happenings and developments there, or you want to reflect back on the recent Noah Presgrove live streams which I've done, as well as the full playlist of the Noah Presgrove case, that will all be available top right corner screen where the I symbol is up there. And if you want to support my channel directly and in other ways and anonymously away from everyone, down below in the comment section, pinned message, there is a PayPal link and then channel membership for YouTube if you want to become a member. Big shout out to those that have supported the channel over time and possibly in recent time too with the odd live stream that I've done. But with that being said, we're going to jump right into the map analysis and I'll break it down bit by bit and explain what it means. At first, everything may appear cluttered, but don't worry, because when it's zoomed in, it becomes just a little bit clearer. However, before we get to that, what needs to be introduced is the person of interest, a name that hasn't come about yet, or at least to my knowledge. It's been talked about from my point of view when I saw it some days ago when I was doing a live stream and George Choden brought the name up. And I know that could raise a few eyebrows of others in the background, but we're just working with what's available, what's about, and I'm just giving you my general thoughts. That's it. And it's to do with a person called Isaac Camarillo, who supposedly a nephew of Justin Roy, kind of like Ace Franco. And recently we've already looked at Ace Franco. That was done for assault or battery and discharge of a firearm inside of a vehicle, and another person was with him at the time, somewhat as a witness, supposedly. And whilst that's a separate event, Ace Franco was also at the party which Noah Presgrove attended back in 2023. And what that theme and analysis was at the time, even though some threw their toys out the pram, was if you have a person capable of such actions and behaviour like that, when associating it with the Noah Presgrove case under the theme of foul play, murder, physicality, brutality, damage, injuries, possibly usage of a weapon, melee item, there is a crossover link. And if Noah Presgrove is in an environment around people that are capable of that, or were to be capable in the future, was Noah Presgrove safe? And that's how we translate it into today's video with the theme of another form of physicality, but something that supposedly happened at the party, and it was by the hands of one of Justin Roy's nephews, I believe. And if it's not one of Justin Roy's nephews, it's still a party goer. There's some back and forth, of course. People will say, yes, it happened, and others say it didn't happen whatsoever. We're back at that stage yet again. But all we can do is talk about it, and this live premiere can allow people to share their for and against arguments and defend the situation and, I don't know, go against it as well. You're able to do so. Simple as. Whilst we're on Street View imagery, overlooking the former party house, Isaac Camarillo, I've never heard of in the past. I believe some people said it was known of, or to some extent it was, but it just never was publicly talked about much. And why would that be the case? Did some people purposely try and hide some names because they're associated with them? Because to put aside the double standards, whilst yes, you can call out the Newtons, the Millans, the Howards, family of family protecting one another, was there anything with the Presses, the Roys, but not as in the true last name, because people have different last names with these nephews and whatnot. you see these family ties in trees, not just one-sided darkness covering for one another, but it can cover from the other perspective too. Not all down to the murder concept or Noah's death, but certain themes and aspects from the party. Just like how when, yes, there are defendants named in the suit, wrongful death lawsuit, in regard to Johnny Trout Wilcoxon and Stevie Howard, fully grown adults, and like Stevie Howard had children, Avery Carter, and their knowledge and some form of ownership of the land and the buildings nearby where the party took place, or near to, as mentioned in the documents, and with that knowledge and connections to those party goers and friends of friends, the knowledge of knowing a party is going to happen, alcohol is supposedly going to be distributed and served to underage people, and they did nothing about it. They didn't call it off, they didn't report it to police, they just left it be. And you could say, well, those of responsible age should have done more if they knew of it early, should have been more responsible and looked out and safeguarded those who are more vulnerable at the party. But that's one-sided. The other way of looking at it would be other party goers, their family, their parents, their relatives who weren't at the party but were looking at their phones, at the Snapchats, the videos on and off whilst elsewhere, checking in on how it was going. And they may have seen alcohol present in the background, or it may have been obvious just based on the behaviour of the people at the party. But they didn't take action. They didn't report it in from the looks of it. Probably because there was no cause for concern at the time. It was just people being their age, messing about. That maybe these family members understood because they were in that position once in the past. Let people have fun. Let people let their hair down. Even if rules are broken and bent, as long as no one gets hurt, we can turn a blind eye. But then as soon as something does go wrong, which basically means when it's too late, oh, now there's outrage. Oh, now there's finger pointing and blame game. You can look at things under a tight microscope once it's happened when reflecting back on earlier stuff at the party. It's just how it is. Similar to Avery when she said the line, supposedly, if you've done anything, Noah, with Logan, she said, I'll kill you. May have been harmless at the time, but then with Noah's death, post that, you'd look at that line and think, that sounds a little bit suspicious. Saying that, and then Noah ends up dead, is there a link? And then Stevie Howard in the background on Facebook saying, if we parents are so bad and evil, if we were responsible, we would have done a better job at disposing of Noah's body and buried it so no one would find. That's giving a scenario, but it's just poor wording, poor timing, kind of dig yourself into a hole and brings the suspicion over to you so people will question you. Might have been sarcastic behaviour, may have not been truly meant, but you don't do yourself any favours. Similar in other cases, Justin Roy, how he presents himself at times, presents himself in an unstable, impetuous manner, tunnel vision behaviour, doesn't learn from previous mistakes, doesn't take on psychological advice and key tips in improving and protecting oneself online, through communities and whatnot. So the credibility goes downhill. When promises are made but they're not kept, credibility goes downhill. That's what we're dealing with. In many different ways and aspects, it ties in with the case and or the community. But we need to focus in on this said individual called Isaac Camarillo. Is there any footage, videos of him at the party caught on camera? From the looks of it, no, not at this moment in time. As for Ace Franco, no footage of him caught on camera at the party. However, Justin Roy at some point did acknowledge that Ace was at the party at some point at least. And I believe it was worded as left before 1 a.m. or before 2 a.m. of Monday. But the mother on Facebook to Ace Franco said it was 10:30 onwards or so, the night before Sunday, when Ace had left. So we've got those different times, which doesn't do much good, beside the whole Caden Pressey debacle with timing, as we know already. But it just goes to show that certain named individuals There might not be any footage or photos of them at this moment in time, but they have been acknowledged to be at the party at least. So following that trend, you could apply it to Isaac Camarillo as well. And I say the full name so people don't get mixed up, because you've got Isaac Rojas, the one that was holding that 12-gauge shotgun in the footage by Caden at 1:05 in the morning on the front patio area of the party house. But now we have Isaac Camarillo, Isaac R and Isaac C. With that being in mind, let's get closer to these said events. And I'm doing it in the order of how it appears and what's been said. Whilst you look at that, it might look a bit messy, but we just do it bit by bit. The importance is understanding the fight, the motive, the reasoning, the atmosphere, and the order of it. And was it close together with other events which involved Noah Presgrove? All these events that take place, it's about measuring the distance and proximity to Noah. How involved was Noah? So, we're focusing in on Saturday, the 2nd of September 2023. First marker here, Isaac Camarillo has a fight with a person over car damage. Who is the fight with? That's unknown of. In terms of car damage, what type of car is it? It's been described as a blue Charger. May have got mixed up previously with a blue Mustang. I believe it was Brylan Sweat that had a red Mustang parked at the party house. Maybe that's where the confusion came from. But there is a blue car at the party house. From the footage, what we've seen, I don't remember seeing a blue car, but that was like on a Sunday. No, it was on a Monday when I was looking at the Caden Pressey footage outside of the house when panning around. You saw the red Cherokee, I believe, which was Caden's vehicle, and then a few others. But as for a blue vehicle, car, I don't remember that. But we're focusing in on Saturday for now. So the person could have come and gone in between, with all fairness. What type of car damage was it? On the side, scratches, dents, and how was it caused? By another partygoer being reckless, purposely causing the damage, not looking where they're going, by the person themselves or behind a wheel of their own car? I wonder. I believe it was worded at some point on the chat, one of my videos, that there may have been damage or there may not have been, but Isaac was rash and impulsive in responding and reacting with a form of physicality or a form of verbal attack before actually self-reflecting and, taking it in before acting and reacting. Now, if that is the case, if there's any impulsive behaviour, any short fuses, and we've seen that with different people on and off. If Noah Presgrove is in an environment with short fuses, one little slip up, one little mistake, one little disagreement, one little misunderstanding, one little prank gone wrong, and add in alcohol, you see how people can react. If they're already a bit of an aggressive individual or a bit confrontational, and add alcohol, which could intensify the situation, and then the variable which determines what happens next, and Noah and his actions may not see eye to eye. Now, was Isaac Camarillo friends with Noah Presgrove? Were they familiar with one another or strangers? I wonder. And in terms of when the fight took place, was that inside or outside of the party house? Take in mind, for those that are watching, if you know of any more, or you think you do, you can share your thoughts, opinions with the correct language and wording in the live chat and or the comment section. But it's at the party house property, could have been inside of the house. To give a scenario of what could have happened, as in Saturday, more so the evening time, and Noah being present, as we know, Isaac could have walked out of the house to get some fresh air, to go to his vehicle, who knows, to have a look around, and then noticed the potential damage. That's if he clearly saw the damage, unless he was told someone damaged his car, and without checking, he just took it out on that said individual that was accused of it. That level of impetuous behaviour would be very problematic with the Noah Presgrove situation, and a crossover with the Mikey Lair situation when Mikey couldn't find his phone, and I believe that was Sunday night. Mikey assumed that Noah was responsible and fishhooked him. In the end, Noah was innocent, but they took it out on Noah. Impulsive behaviour, impetuous behaviour, getting caught up within it. You're the innocent one. You're the wounded party at the end of the day. You face the consequences for actions you did not do. So, like how we've agreed, Noah Presgrove wasn't deserving of death. What did he not do, which somehow people thought he was responsible for and then took it out on him? That's a theory and a concept, a mentality of the way people may act from the party with previous events. So it can be deep-rooted. Now, it's not quite that, and Isaac Camarillo straight up saw damage to his vehicle. It's understandable why and how you would react. Frustrated, angry, annoyed. Was the said individual responsible outside of the house when the confrontation took place? Or were they inside of the house? Or maybe somewhere else on the property? Who knows? Verbal, starting off with. Did it get physical though? There's a possibility of physicality when it's been said the fight was broken up. A fight can come in different ways. A verbal fight, a physical fight, and both together. Because when we're talking about a few days on, as in Monday, the wrongful death lawsuit stated around or at the time, before, after or during, when Noah was to walk away at 3:30, based on interpreting the language, that Jack Newton and Avery had a verbal fight with Noah Presgrove, inside of the house or outside of the house. What was really explained, the details, the motives behind it, it wasn't publicly explained. So we've theorised and based it off previous events building up to that. But as said, it was a verbal fight with words and mouth, oral. That's it. Not physical for that specific event. But it's still classified as a fight. So the same could have happened with Isaac and whoever they were having a go at. But to involve a breakup, people getting involved, stepping on in, maybe it was already physical or it was about to. So someone had to step in. And who would that be? Well, the claims are, when we tie it onto down here from the fight over a damaged vehicle, Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton, of all people, break it up. Now, why do those two? Because they're closest to the fight taking place, likely in proximity. Because they themselves, don't want drama or don't want things to escalate. So then, they step on in as the peacemakers. But that would be a little bit hypocritical, indirectly speaking, because Noah and Jack have their own problems going on. And it's about understanding the timing of this. We've already heard about Noah and Jack having a fight, an argument, one being Saturday night, the other one being Monday. At least that's how Justin Roy worded it in the past. But with the additional fights being added in, whether that involves Noah and someone else or two separate people, if Noah steps on in between it all, it's getting involved in a web of, problems in the moment or a few hours later, days later, you never know. You step on in to try and break something up and then you can become a target yourself. And I'll just give you a very, very rough example. Let's say a person was having a verbal fight or in a dangerous situation with a stranger and you're passing by or you live nearby. You intervene. You scare the person off. You push the person away. You protect that victim. They thank you. Oh, and everything's all okay now. That person you pushed away or told to leave, next time around, they may come after you. They might smash the window, intimidate. It's like when you get involved, you're the marked target. You're the next one. And that's why some people don't always like intervening, because they think that Their own life can be put in danger in the moment or later on. If you're at a party and it's with familiar faces, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But it depends on how well Isaac Camarillo is acquainted with Noah and or Jack Newton and vice versa. If they're strangers, there's a higher risk of a potential grudge, a follow-up, a few hours, a next day on, whatever. If you know one another, besides the influence of alcohol, you might shrug it off the next day. You might say, forget about it. It doesn't matter. It's all okay. But what's important is, who even said that Noah and Jack broke it up? Supposedly, said by Shandon Johnson. Can't remember the first name, but Tim Daniel did a post recently, like a part 3 or a part 4, about the said events of a blue car, a girl that was being stalked, supposedly at a house by a blue car, whether that links to Isaac Camarillo's cemetery event as well. These are things which we can get into at a later point to possibly try and tie it all together. Was it Melissa? I don't think it was Melissa, but it was something Johnson who spoke out, and Tim Daniel referred to them as a mom to a partygoer that was brave enough to give the side of the story of certain events to try and clear things up, but they got pushed, shunned aside, blocked and removed, harassed and bullied to some extent. So they've kind of gone back or gone underground and hidden away. If that's the mother and it ends in Johnson, probably the mother to Shandon Johnson. Shandon, or Shandy, however you say the name, is that blonde-haired girl in the pink top that you saw Saturday night slapping Noah Presgrove across the face. And that was outside under the overhanging roof. Shandon slapped Noah, his glasses shot off the back of him. You remember that? And then she was like laughing about it. It's been said she was only there on the Saturday. She did not return back the next day. What's come about in recent time in the live chat is one of the reasons why she supposedly didn't return back is because she felt something bad was going to happen at the party. If that's really the case, she may have not known what that bad action or event was, what it was going to be or who it was going to involve. But then at the same time, depending on how bad you felt it was going to be, could any intervention have taken place? You get what I'm saying? If you genuinely think that something bad is going to happen, it's understandable why you wouldn't want to be around when it does implode, when it does go down. But depending on how bad it is, could they have done any more? Could they have warned people at the party or those that she's close to and said, hey, I don't think it's a good idea. I just think that something is off here, the atmosphere and whatnot. It makes you wonder. It's been also said that a girl was followed back by someone, by a blue car. If that links to Isaac Camarillo, and if the victim supposedly linked back to Shandon Johnson, did Shandon feel for her life and feel in danger that someone like that or similar who was at the party where she was at too on the Saturday, and with other things going on there too, she felt she didn't want to go back to that party in case she came face to face with that said individual or somebody else similar. And that's what also put her off and also reinforced her mindset of something bad is going to happen at the party. That's a possibility. If the stalking thing does not link there, as said, recent information, news and talk and discussions which haven't been looked at enough yet because it's early days, it was just focusing in on the fight, this one here, and Shandon is the one saying that Noah and Jack broke it up, the fight. It would mean that Shandon was in the presence of Isaac Camarillo and aware of what they are capable of, whether they've got a short fuse, whether they appear a bit aggressive or verbal or physical. And she felt uneasy by that because it's not just a witch hunt. It's not just focused on one person. Let's just put it aside and put it on pause for a second. It was Caden Pressey, and I've got it marked down here to do with other stuff. Caden Pressey that mentioned he had bad feelings about Travis Monson. Caden, well, not bad things about directly Travis Monson, but recalled certain events which could be considered bad. As a correction, it was Caden in a Facebook Messenger conversation that was referring to another individual caught on camera in the background of the party footage and said, yeah, that guy there, I don't trust him. I feel he's bad news, a bad person capable of bad things. And who was Caden indirectly referring to? Pepe Guam, Texas boy. Same individual caught on camera at 2:32 in the morning when when Mikey Lair supposedly was under a traffic barrel and Pepe Guam was beside it. So Caden felt that Pepe Guam was bad news, a bad person, bad things, a bad feeling, a bad vibe. So this is what I mean. These are thoughts and feelings by different partygoers on different days that, well, maybe not quite on different days. It was actually all on the same day. And that's what makes it interesting. We've got some really interesting links here. What I'm getting at is, beside the theme of fights taking place, the theme, and I'm using this with careful wording, the theme of certain female partygoers being made to feel uncomfortable, maybe unsafe. And whether that links directly in with Noah Presgrove or a male stepping on in, defending or protecting, and then you get caught in a crossfire with the girl trouble, any jealousy, motives and grudges, it can implode on itself. And a couple of these activities where maybe certain female party goers, and I use the term female because then it can apply to different age ranges instead of just one set or one group. Just know that. Caden Pressey did make a reference to when it came to Saturday with Colton Newton, the older brother to Jack Newton. Colton and Travis Monson came to the party on the Saturday, and whilst there, Caden said that Travis Monson, the way he spoke to the party girls in a disrespectful, rude way, and how he physically picked different girls up and placed them on the countertop, and that the girls were either scared or felt weirded out by it. They felt uncomfortable. That certain males in an environment with girls, and it being an unsafe environment, an uncomfortable presence and atmosphere. That's roughly in the words of Caden Pressey. And on top of that, then Caden saying, I've got a bad feeling, or had a bad feeling about Pepe Guam. So if Caden has a certain sense or instinct within, and then you've got Shandon Johnson, who supposedly had a bad feeling about something going down at the party from Saturday onwards, and that's one of the reasons why she didn't return back. It doesn't sound too good. Different people feeling bad vibes about uncertainty, events, certain said individuals, and then you got Noah Presgrove unaware of it all. But in fairness, those that felt there was a bad vibe may have not known that Noah was going to be the one caught up within it. Maybe. So there's only so much that you can do. But it's this foreshadowing. That's why it's important. It's not just the fights that take place, the physicality that takes place. It's the motive behind each event. And then the thoughts and feelings of certain party goers on the sideline, the spectators, the observers. Because Shandon was caught on camera visibly Saturday night. And when Shandon slapped Noah, I'm not too sure, was that before or after those fights took place between Noah Jack, Isaac Camarillo, and another party goer? I wonder. The theme, the atmosphere seemed, they were laughing and joking when Shandon slapped Noah. Maybe later on that's when things took a bit of a darker turn temporarily. Just because a fight takes place and it may be dark in the moment, it might be resolved after, but is it truly resolved? Just like when you see someone who you think you know, but deep down there's something else going on within, you think that things have been resolved. you think a certain relationship or a connection or a friendship has reached a certain point, a checkpoint, a form of rejuvenation, a form of movement made forwards, and then, whilst you're under a false sense of security, a false sense of positivity, in the other person's mind, they're thinking and feeling something completely different and are pulling in the opposite direction. There's that invisible barrier, that invisible roadblock, that invisible separation. Slow but surely. Unknown until it's too late. Can you have a cauldron bubbling away at the party where things are going to get worse, but they're going to get worse afterwards? They're going to get better first, temporarily, and then get worse later. And some people sense that and think, yeah, it's not looking too good. It seems like people have made up. It's been accepted, it's been agreed upon, but has it really? I hope that makes sense. Now, what's also important to refer back to with Shandon is because she was at the party and it's been proven, caught on camera, Saturday night, it would mean the events that supposedly occurred on Saturday night, Shandon would have been a witness to that. As in the time of when she left the party, I'm not too certain, so there is that needs to be acknowledged. But if Shandon says that Noah and Jack broke up the fight between Isaac, Camarillo and whoever over car damage, there could be some truth to that. If you're a spectator and if you're present and there and with those said same individuals, you would have seen it, you would have heard it. Just like how you would have assumed with Caden and what he experienced and saw when at the party over those days. That's why it's important to acknowledge. But the atmosphere after the fight being broken up, what was it like? Did Isaac forgive whoever? Did the other person supposedly apologise? Was it all fine and normal? Or was it brewing away? Put an act on. Smile. Act as if it's fine. Oh, no harm done. It is what it is. But deep down, there's something seething within. But that's Isaac Camarillo having trouble with another person, not directly Noah. But it depends how the fight was broken up too, and what was said. Did Noah say anything to Isaac Camarillo which could have got under his skin, indirectly, and then started a new grudge, a new argument, or a new bad taste in one's mouth? I think it was suggested by some people in the chat recently that when Noah stepped on in, and maybe Jack too, that Isaac Camarillo felt embarrassed or humiliated somehow. In what way could that be? Well, I'll just give you a very rough example. If a fight was to take place or break out, if Isaac swung or grappled someone, or there was a bit of tugging, pushing and pulling, if Noah had broken up the fight, Noah is probably capable of doing that because of his wrestling experience. Whether that means tackling someone to the ground, pinning them against the wall, wrapping your arms around them to try and neutralise them, to pull them away from the other person. With Noah's experience, technique and strength, sometimes a person can be neutralised very effectively and a bit too easily. And it might make them feel weak in the process. They're getting angry, they're ready to have it out with someone, and then another individual just comes on in and picks you up from the neck or the top and pulls you aside or pulls you away. The extreme example of literally being picked up by one hand and carried about or held up in the air with one hand. You may feel weak, you may feel defenseless and vulnerable. And if other people are around, you might think, does that harm your reputation? Does it make you less of a bad boy? Does it make you look soft in some way? That you can be manhandled around? These are just scenarios to try and justify or make sense of how a breakup of a fight can lead to someone who's trying to be a peacemaker being the next target because of how they handled the situation, or how maybe Isaac Camarillo felt when being dealt with. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And, look at it with Mikey, Lair and Noah. It was said that Sunday night they were wrestling one another. The Noah Presgrove project on YouTube, known as Michael Fazekaz, had said, and maybe we did it for a separate video, mentioned that the reason why Mikey Laird came down to the party was to fight with Noah. It's a very weird situation, that, considering that Mikey and Noah are in the same vehicle being picked up by Gage Jessen, and what the fight only took place once at the party and not when they were in a closed space in a car. That's what I don't quite get. But nevertheless, from what Caden originally said, that when they were wrestling, and I believe it might have been the patio area, that Noah dominated Mikey, as in wrestling. Maybe not much came from that, but when you're manhandled, when you're dominated, when you don't stand a winning chance, you might feel powerless. You might feel embarrassed in some way. It may not be that deep, it may not be that big, it's just messing about, but one person can take it more than the other. It could possibly affect someone's feeling of their reputation, or it could somehow tarnish or negatively impact their ego, so they react negatively or feel bad about it. So then they develop a form of hatred or frustration towards that said other individual that is just messing about, nothing too deep or dark, and wires, lines are crossed, and there's a deep misunderstanding, and one person ends up being worse off than the other. So if Noah was able to dominate Mikey when it actually came to wrestling, was Noah Presgrove able to neutralise Isaac Camarillo if a fight had taken place and Isaac didn't like the way he was handled or the way Noah acted, or if anything was said? I know it's all possibilities, but this is the framework for how it can escalate and how Noah could be caught up within it onwards. Just putting it out there. But beside that, we need to reflect back on the second/the third. And the reason why I say that is George Choden is interpreting it, based on his wording, that the fight between Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton took place on the second, the Saturday, as in Saturday night. However, Caden Pressey is the one that has stated it took place past midnight. And if there was any truth to it, Caden, a witness to it taking place, is he familiar with the time? Hard to tell and judge, because Caden has been a bit inconsistent with timing, just from what we've seen and what's available, and the discrepancies along the way, so it'll raise some eyebrows and have trust issues. Alicia, the mother, said that Caden had got to the party just about or near to past midnight going into Sunday morning, that Caden hadn't left early. But in Caden's words, he was at the party on Saturday and through the day or so, or at least the afternoon. And yet Alicia had previously said, no, Caden had only got there once it got close to past midnight, as in early Sunday morning. But Caden did say in Partners in True Crime interview that Saturday, the events and the atmosphere, it was all fine and okay. There was nothing wrong going on. How can Caden say that when it seems like that Saturday evening, afternoon, night was full of possible tension with different fights and arguments taking place? Or maybe in the eyes of Caden, that's just seen as normal. It's what happens any other time. But is this like any other time, considering what happened to Noah in the end? Maybe not. There might be underlying factors. So that's why I say it either happened Saturday night or early Sunday morning, depending on who you listen to. Caden implies it was Sunday morning, past midnight of Saturday, crossing over. George implies it was more Saturday, based on the timing of the argument. In terms of the motive or what the argument was actually about, well, Caden said one thing, George Choden has said another. George, I don't know where he got his information from, just take that in mind. Caden, his information comes from his mouth based on witnessing it at the time. But I'm sure Caden was wording it more so as what he heard, not what he saw. And then Justin Roy implies that Caden did a lot more than just hearing, but actually seeing and breaking it up. And we'll get to that in just a second. So the original point by Caden was Jack Newton was supposedly flirting with Noah's girlfriend at the time. Did it happen at the time of the party, or days before, who knows? But somehow Noah Presgrove found out and was yelling at Jack. Take in mind, if Noah was at the party through Saturday, like morning, afternoon onwards into the evening, night, and Jack was there too, there was no argument taking place through the daytime. So why in the evening or past midnight did the argument take place, the verbal fight, if not more? Is it just because that's when Noah found out about it? But if he did, how did he find out? Who told him? How did Noah see it? Did he take a peek at Jack's phone? Did he see a text message here or there? Did someone whisper in his ear? Who knows? But yeah, because of that, Noah gave a piece of his mind to his best friend, because Noah felt like he was betrayed, stabbed in the back by his best friend. His best friend flirting with Noah's girlfriend. Is that fair on Noah? No. Did he yell back? Well, that's what Caden said. And that was pretty much it. So it's understandable under those circumstances why an argument would break out. The only other point to add on, which hasn't been listed here, it was Jack Newton that said, well, we both argued back and forth and then we both apologised afterwards, and it was just to do with girl trouble. It was like spreading the responsibility of who was responsible for it, even though Caden Pressey is claiming it was mainly Jack Newton's fault for the argument coming about and escalating because of what Jack did to Noah's girlfriend. And Noah wasn't too happy about it. Yet Jack Newton is like, well, it's not quite like that. We both apologise. We both said things we should have not said, based on interpretation, that bit. Interesting, isn't it? However, George Choden had said recently, claiming that supposedly Noah Presgrove felt that Jack Newton and Carter Combs were spending more time together, meaning that Noah and his best friend Jack were spending less time together. But does that justify a full-on, blown-out argument of yelling and whatnot? Unless it was exaggerated by Caden Pressey and possibly exaggerated by Justin Roy. Who knows? But I do understand if people were sceptical of George Choden only because it's coming from a non-party goer. But George would have heard of it from somewhere. So George, if you are present watching, feel free to list it below as to where you heard it from, the source, the context, the origins. Then we can measure the validity of it and the reliability. But, you know, the theme of Jack spending more time with his girlfriend more than his best friend, that can come down to the general theme of girl trouble. Jack Newton referred to it as girl trouble. Other people in the community refer to it vaguely as girl trouble. Whether that involves the crossover of cheating, the crossover of flirting with someone else's girl, the crossover of feeling distant from someone. Whether it justifies a full-on blown-out conversation, argument-esque thing, it depends. Because let's look at it this way, right? Supposedly, Noah Presgrove knows Jack Newton much longer than Jack knows Carter Combs. That Jack was supposedly dating Carter Combs, in his words, a few weeks before the party, and some of Noah's family members, the Ashley Chadwick cousin, and Aunt Robin Smith had claimed it wasn't just a few weeks, it was a few months before the party. Nevertheless, Noah and Jack, best friends, knowing each other much longer than these other relationships with girls, right? So when you are tight with someone, you built a rapport, you got a relationship as in a deep, meaningful friendship, and you spent all that time together, that as you grow up or as just time moves on, new connections are formed. The person that you know of may change in punctuality, how often they show up when you need them, when you want them, when you want to hang out with them, spend time together, make more memories, and just talk. You know, as friends, close friends, when it feels like that starts slipping away. And it can be like with any relationship or connection with anyone that you know of, that you were close to, you felt safe, you felt happy around them. And yet now things are just fading away, disappearing, or at least it feels like that. Maybe it's physical distance. Maybe it's emotional distance. Maybe the other person is tied up with other things. If it's to do with responsibilities elsewhere, if it's to do with them being busy, are they truly busy, or are they just using that as an excuse? Could they spend time with you, but they choose to do other things? Has their priority list changed? You two, both the best of best friends, but now someone has been introduced into their life. Now they've welcomed someone else into their life, and they're building a connection. Because best friends can stick together. Friends before other types of relationships, but it doesn't always apply that way. The connection that a person may have with another individual, as in a actual relationship with someone, like living together, hanging out together, possibly getting married down the line, that type of relationship is going to be on a different, deeper level compared to a friendship. Sometimes there might be exceptions, but you see the formal procedure, how it goes. So when these new responsibilities creep on in, these new priorities are formed, and you're making time for your best friend, but you're also prioritizing your partner and so on, you might end up neglecting things, forgetting people to some extent. Did Noah Presgrove feel he was in that situation? But in fairness, Noah would have to understand that he's in a relationship too with his girlfriend. So there should be an understanding at least, unless Noah just made more time for Jack and Jack was making less time for Noah, despite each individual respectfully being in a separate relationship and partner status with someone else, that Noah wanted more from it. I'm just understanding the psychological aspect of this, right? The wants and the needs, if they're not met, it can have a psychological effect on the individual. They may feel a form of isolation. They may feel not as special anymore. They may feel like they've been put aside. They may feel like the other friend doesn't care anymore. And it's just going to be like that way forever, or it's going to get even worse with time. So it can have an emotional pull on the heart, on the mind, and it can lead to a series of negative feelings, and it could get worse with time. Depends on how close you are to someone, how much you value them compared to how they value you. Did Noah feel isolated and he wanted his best friend back? But the best friend wanted to spend more time with Carter Combs. In the heat of the moment, yes, it can lead to emotions spiraling out, flooding, if it's been held in with time as well. If alcohol is added into the mix, yes, it can lead to a rush in the moment and words exchanged which may not be meant, or it's just heat of the moment. If Noah Presgrove had said something he didn't mean to Jack and vice versa, it could have been somewhat intense, the argument. Sometimes, and it's not always, but sometimes those that know one another, those type of arguments and falling outs can be much more stronger and much more intense compared to when it's amongst strangers, because they know one another better. They know how they work. They know what the other person's like. So when it's different or when something has changed, there's got to be a deeper reason behind it. There's a stronger push and pull factor. And in general, those that know one another, friendships, relationships, partners, it's going to be more passionate. It's going to be more intense, as in calling out disagreements, pushing and pulling until there is possibly a resolve in the moment or later. But as intense as it can be, there may not always be an understanding immediately. So it can be quite raw amongst the different parties involved. So Noah could have yelled at Jack and Jack yelled back, all because of girl trouble, prioritizing other people in life over your best friend and other stuff in life. Doesn't always have to be other people prioritizing. It could be prioritizing work over other stuff. And it's like, okay, well, there needs to be transparency, there needs to be communication, there needs to be a middle ground, and if there's not, that can also lead to a form of isolation, separation, negative feelings, maybe even a depressing depressive-like atmosphere or actual feelings. It goes in many different ways. So that is what George Choden had suggested in recent time, that it's what Noah felt, and that's why he gave a piece of his mind to Jack Newton. And then I guess Jack Newton gave a piece of his mind to Noah, and it was intense. And yet Caden Pressey was the one saying, no, it was Jack flirting with Noah's girlfriend, and Noah was simply giving a piece of his mind to Jack. Two contrasting outlooks, in a way. But the similarity is girl trouble. The presence of a female, the presence of a relationship or someone's partner kind of getting in the way of a friendship. And that can come in other ways too, just like how a relationship can lead to one or more parties somehow negatively losing from what they once had elsewhere because of that said relationship that they're in. It can be internal and it can be external, but there can also be loss in the process. And it can lead to arguments and fights taking place. Beside what George and Caden said, Justin Roy over here mentioned that, just in general, the fight between Noah and Jack was aggressive, physical, there was pushing and shoving. And that's important to know, because considering what happened to Noah Monday onwards, and there could have been forms of physicality there to cause those injuries based on what some people have pushed and claimed, beside accidents. If you've already got a fight in the process or a form of physicality a few hours before, a few days before, it could cross over like a grudge. The more physicality, the more hostility, the more violence in some way, the higher the chances of it occurring to Noah maybe one more time, but this time for good. It's just to put it out there. And with this aggressive physical altercation between Noah and Jack, Justin claimed that Caden Pressey was the one to break it up. So that's interesting. You got two separate fights. Caden steps in to break it up between Noah and Jack, but then Justin claims that Caden broke it up. But then you've got Shandon that says Noah and Jack broke up the fight with Isaac Camarillo and whoever. Two different fights, but there's a bit of a crossover. So which one happened first and in what exact order? Well, referring back to George Choden, claimed that the fight between Noah and Jack was actually interrupted by Isaac Camarillo fighting with someone else. So what that would mean is if Isaac Camarillo had the fight with whoever Saturday night, it means that Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton were fighting around that same exact time for it to be interrupted, which would mean Saturday night, which would mean when Caden Pressey claimed in one of the interviews that it took place past midnight, that's incorrect. It was Saturday night. So that could be something else that Caden Pressey may have got wrong or made a mistake. And that's just an observation. That is all. Interesting. But, and I'm just working this out as I go along, if Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton got interrupted with their fight because of Isaac Camarillo fighting, then Justin Roy's claim of Caden breaking up the fight between Noah and Jack could be incorrect because Noah and Jack broke the fight up because they had to intervene with Isaac Camarillo, which would mean that Justin got it wrong. But also Caden Pressey never mentioned anything about stepping in to break up a fight. So why would Justin speak on behalf of Caden when Justin wasn't there? Caden was. Caden never said about breaking up a fight, and yet Justin says that's exactly what happened. What the hell is going on there? It's like a web of entanglement. And in addition, with Noah and Jack having supposedly, as described by Justin, an aggressive, physical, pushing and shoving fight, as intense as that was, as passionate as that was, somehow it broke that moment. As strong as it was, something much stronger must have happened for them to kind of zone out of it and then break up the fight with Isaac Camarillo and whoever. What I mean is, and that can be anywhere, a location. We'll get to it on just street level whilst I talk right now. That concept of if one thing was bad enough, the other must have been worse. And the reason why I say that is, you got the party house, for example. You got two people having an argument, a fight, verbal or physical. It could be somewhat intense. It could be a bit aggressive. It could be full on. They're locked on with one another, having it out. Maybe zoning out from everyone else that's around. Just like when it comes to breaking up a fight in general in life, if it's quite intense and both people or one or the other is locked on, it can be hard to break up and split up. Look at boxing, look at MMA when it comes to the weigh-ins, the face-to-face, the face-off. Both parties or one or the other could be really intense in giving a stare down, and they don't want to pull away. They want to maintain that eye contact, psychological warfare. It's an intense moment. They zone out from everyone else around and everything else that's present, and they're just focusing on their opponent. Up close, noses squashed together, eyes locked, not blinking, and then the president or whoever comes on in, tries to pull them away, and they don't want to move, so they just stand there staring for maybe 5-10 minutes. What's the person's name? Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, I think that's how you say it, did like a 5 to 9 minute standoff staring at one another, and those around could not pull them apart. That a person had to stand in front of them and try and jump up and down because they're tall to try and break eye contact. So when you're locked in with someone, you're locked in. It's hard to break that focus. So if Noah and Jack are locked in, engaged with an argument, and it's intense, if those two can break focus for the sake of breaking up a fight which involves Isaac Camarillo, it must mean that, based on Justin's description between Noah and Jack being aggressive and physical, as locked in as that was, then maybe Isaac Camarillo's confrontation with someone was even worse, even more intense for it to break focus between Noah and Jack. You get what I'm saying? That's one way of looking at it. The other aspect could be, maybe it was exaggerated by Justin. Maybe it wasn't as bad as worded. And like when Caden said, it was just yelling, verbal and not physical. So there's differences between what Caden says to what Justin Roy says, but they're supposedly working together or have been in the background. Well, clearly they're not on the same wavelength, or they weren't at some point at least. And it was not really cleared up publicly either. Yeah. The way I'm looking at it could be, it may have just been verbal yelling between the two, Noah and Jack, and then they saw that something on a bigger scale, or could have got worse and escalated. Jack and Noah felt, you know what, we need to put this aside because we need to stop this other thing because it looks like it's going to get worse. It looks like it's going to get quite heated. So you put differences aside temporarily for the sake of breaking up another fight that's taking place. So there's a bit of an overlap of conflict going on. And then that overlap of getting involved into something which isn't your business, you don't make it your business, you're just there to be a peacekeeper. But if Noah handled or spoke to Isaac Camarillo and Isaac felt, disrespected by it, that could then lead to a new enemy being formed in the moment. Whether that crosses over to Monday and there's a form of revenge, an attack, you never know. But if Isaac Camarillo is possibly a nephew to Justin Roy, as much as Justin Roy may push foul play or murder, I do understand that under these circumstances, if a theory was to be put across that one of those nephews was caught up, which there's no proof of that at this moment in time, I know it would get Justin Roy's back up. It probably still will, despite my clear language and communication right now, an endless complaint, paragraphs upon paragraphs. So Jan Fiorillo 2.0 complaining in the comment section down below. That's one of my predictions. We'll see how it goes. But I understand there will be resistance, but it would be a little bit one-sided and double standards if Justin was passionate about it possibly being murder, foul play, more to it, but then ruling out other people when they could be involved. Depends how you look at it. Very touchy waters, I know, and how some can react and respond, and I'm sure some of you, the viewers, will understand where I'm coming from there. But look, you've got the theme of fights taking place, aggression, frustration, alcohol, short fuses, because the other short fuse was Colton Newton. Maybe not so much at the party, but when it came to online social media, when a person, which could have been Vanessa Salazar, communicating with Stephanie Millan, sister to Jasmine Millan, who was a party goer, asking questions. And then for some reason, after that Snapchat conversation between a stranger acting as Noah's friend, I think, communicating with Stephanie Millan to get answers, then comes in Colton Newton defending Stephanie and saying, get your mouth out of it and stay away, and if you try again, I will come after you or something. Very threatening language. Short fuse under that circumstance. And then I think there was another time where Colton, if I'm correct, said in a Snapchat story reply about, you get some of your boys, I'll get some of mine, and then we'll sort it out face to face. I mean, I think it was worded like that. Just sounds kind of, I don't know, foreshadowing a form of violence and confrontation. And Colton was there, maybe only on a Saturday with Travis Monson, but, you know, linking back to Caden saying about how Travis Monson was with the girls, and Caden also mentioning about Colton and Travis being told to leave by Jack because of stealing alcohol when they return back later on in the evening of Saturday. There's separate events going on and overlaps. You've got Noah and Jack stepping in on Isaac Camarillo with a fight, supposedly, but then you've got Jack, who's not the party host and doesn't live there, but are ordering people who can come and who can't, and ordering others to leave. So there's a lot of overlaps where even Jack Newton could have been a marked target for pushing people away from the party. It is a level of pettiness and alcohol. They could have got their revenge on Jack, but they didn't. It's Noah Presgrove of all people. Did Noah Presgrove ever pull a prank which went wrong or was misunderstood by a party goer and then took it out on Noah afterwards? The themes, the motives of feeling humiliated, frustrated, abandoned, stabbed in the back, disrespected, fueled with alcohol, fueled with a short temper and a short fuse over the course of days, and any other events which may have happened in between, which we may have heard or not heard of before, could all spiral and leak on the Monday when Noah's walking away. But ultimately, it would come down to the likes of, was Ace Franco there at the party, a nephew to Justin Roy, on the Monday at some point? Based on the wording by Justin, yes, but not at 3:30. Wasn't around, supposedly. But what about Isaac Camarillo? Were they there on Monday onwards? Do they have to be at the party in order for them to be linked possibly to something happening with Noah, if there was a motive? But that's the thing. People can come and go from a party. You don't literally have to be at the party at the time of when Noah's walking away. You could be about to arrive at the party when Noah's walking away. Noah's out of sight from others. You're out of sight from others because you're just getting there. Or if you were leaving a bit earlier before Noah and hanging out down east, down the dirt road, and then Noah walks by, it is a confrontation there. We've talked about the possibility of a passerby, a stranger, being involved with Noah's death somehow. Could you have a passerby coming or going or passing by who's was at the party on that same day or the day before? They weren't intending on returning back, but they may have been near to the area and came across Noah. Any form of opportunistic behaviour to get some form of revenge, to teach Noah a lesson. These are the outside of the box ways of looking at it, combining different variables and factors to create a new perspective under certain circumstances. But we'll see what happens. There might be resistance from this video, but I just wanted to lay it out as in what different people have said based on a fight taking place, the motive behind it, the extra characteristics of that said fight, and how it can overlap or cross over. George Choden had said that Caden Pressey is lying about the explanation of the fight between Noah and Jack. And George had claimed that Caden had lied because Caden is working in the background behind the scenes with Justin Roy. But if that was the case, then you would think that what Justin says and reference made to Caden would say the same thing in line with Justin, but that's not the case. Because Justin says it was aggressive and physical, Caden said it was just yelling. Justin said that Caden broke it up, but Caden never acknowledged that in any of the interviews, what we've seen of publicly. So they're not in line with one another, just like the situation between what Caden says compared to what his mother Alicia has said at times. They're not in line with one another, but technically they should be if they're in communication with one another and somewhat close. And then it makes you wonder, how well do people know one another then if there is a level of detachment? You're not on the same wavelength. You don't finish each other's sentences, let alone you don't even say the same things or recall the same stuff. That's a breakdown in communication, and it's not a good look. All in all, some very interesting times going on and what could happen next, but it does need to be controlled within reason, and even the title of the video, that'll be done so, as in, I guess, a question mark. So if anyone does complain, they can't really, based on the titling. Just got to make sure to give the heads up there, but hopefully most people understood where the video was coming from, and just trying to work it out bit by bit to see what's true, what's not, what may have been exaggerated and maybe misunderstood along the way, and then reach a conclusion at some point, maybe even reinforced with evidence. With that being said, I appreciate those that have watched and those watching on catch up. If you'd like to hit the like button, share the video to spread the awareness, that'd be much appreciated. My name's Wyatt Raff. With that being said, thanks for watching, goodbye, good night for now.